What up, y'all? You rocking with GT Philly. Let's take this ride. It's go time. So look, man, we're gonna go ahead and touch on some childhood trauma today, man. That's something I believe that affect a lot of us and carry on later in our life, man. And I realized this due to me being a person that do music, being a person who started writing my own book. Now, when I did that, you know, I wasn't planning on dealing with trauma or nothing like that, but in reliving those things, writing that book especially, and able to me to feel the heal, man. Cause you know, I didn't even know about no healing until a person came to me one day, you know, I was going through it, and he was like, man, have you ever healed, bro? Like, I was like, healed, you know what I mean? Cause, you know, I was the type of dude that when I was going through heartache or pain or any of that, man, I blocked it out, man. Like, I had an ex tell me one time, she was like, you run from all your problems. You run from all your problems. And I was like, hell no, I don't run from my problems. I face everything. And I was telling the truth, but so was she. And this is what I mean by that. Like, so by me facing things head on that I faced physically, it tricked my mind into thinking I really faced everything like that. However, when it came to pain, yeah, I ducked it. You know what I'm saying? I just pushed it somewhere deep inside in a very unhealthy way and, you know, left it there. And it was surfacing other ways in other areas in my life. So, in writing that book, man, it allowed me to relive things. Like, I was the type of person, I go through a breakup or something, man, I ain't trying to think about that shit. I ain't trying to hear about it or nothing. You know, I watch people in a movie or something, you know, they going through the breakup, they got the bowl of ice cream, the sad songs on, watching some old emotional movie, or, you know what I mean? Like, I be like, they tripping. Nah, they had it right, because they was feeling, you know what I'm saying? That was a process that I ducked. So, a lot of us don't realize, man, we got trauma, man. So, for me, like, the earliest I can remember that I experienced childhood trauma was, man, I was probably 2 years old, man. It's kind of a crazy story. I mean, I'm gonna give it to you like this, man. My first words was no fronts and 8 balls. Dead ass. Like, I found that out in Buckingham on my last bid when my mom come to visit me, and we was talking about something, and it had just came up, and she was like, you know what your first words were? I think I was saying something along the lines. I was like, Mom, I feel like I'm destined for this. Like, I'm doomed to be in prison for the rest of my life. Like, I ain't feel like I had a chance. And when she told me that, man, it really hit hard on me, because I kind of chuckled when she said it. I'm like, what? But then at the same time, it was disturbing. So I believe that came about, you know, both of my parents, you know, they was drug dealers, man. They sold drugs. And, you know, people come to the house looking for things, man, asking for fronts, you know. Mama answered the door, like, man, I told y'all, no fronts, you know what I mean? And then, you know, 8 balls of common sale, you know what I mean? So I'm assuming I heard them words, and, you know, the intensity of the no fronts, and then the 8 balls, you know, any child, you know, basketball, football, baseball, you know, you hear balls, you probably thinking it's something okay, but really I'm over here running around talking about 8 balls. On childhood trauma, something that came to light to me also later in my life that I didn't even realize that I somehow processed in a certain way at a young age to deal with or cope with whatever had happened. So this gonna sound crazy at first, but it'll make sense in a minute. So my whole life I had this reoccurring memory that was just insane to me, and I ain't really never understand what it was. So it was like, what I remember was being in this room, and I can close my eyes right now and picture it. It was this round table in front of me. I was in the bed. There was a bed next to me. They had these ugly, like, military green blankets on them. And it was just like some ugly room. And there was a door right to the left. There was some people in the house. I can remember maybe 2. I don't know. This is the memory for some reason. But where it gets strange at, there was these two things that came to the door. They were wearing trench coats, top hats, and one of the little cartoon bombs was in their hand with the little wick on it. And it was humanoid pigs. Yeah, that sounds crazy, I know. However, I didn't understand why that was always in my mind throughout the years. Like, why did that thought come across? Like, why did I remember that? Well, I never had knew. One day I was talking to my homeboy Tim, and I told him about that, man. I was like, bro, like, I don't know what we were talking about. You know, we were just talking about something deep, and then that came up. And I said that to him, and he was like, what? I was like, man, I don't know, dog. Like, I don't know what that is, but for some reason I remember this. And coincidentally, a couple of days later, I'm talking to my mom on the phone from prison. And this was when I was about 38. I'm now 41. And I was kind of upset because at the time, in Virginia, it was a good time bill that was being passed or was going through the process of being passed. And this is the first time in my life that I was eligible for something like that. You know, I needed to get on this and see, you know, was there anything going to hinder me from my past, because I got a violent history in my past, and it was one of them bills where it's tricky, you know what I mean? So I was asking for help with that, and then I was also writing my book at the time, so I also was asking for, like, you know, little details, addresses when I was young, you know, where we lived here, because I wanted to start the book from halfway through my mother's pregnancy with me, because her and my father's life was interesting as well. So I was a little upset, like, damn, I don't be asking for no money, no nothing. I'm just saying, I just need you to help me get this stuff right here, and, you know, help me with this good time thing, like just do the research on it. You know, I'm locked up, I couldn't do it so much. We don't have access to them type of things for real. Not like I wanted to. So with that, you know, my mom was like, you know what, you right. You know, she was like, the good time bill, she was like, I apologize. You know, my mom getting older, man, her memory, So she was like, you know, I'll be forgetting things. She was like, I'm gonna get on it. And she was like, but Brian, she was like, the other thing with the book, she was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's hard for me to pull them things back up because, you know, I'm ashamed of how I was as a mother at them times. And I understood, you know what I mean, when she said that, because doing that would have made her relive a time in her life that she wasn't proud of. And being a father who failed and dropped the ball, being incarcerated most of my children's life, I can definitely relate to that. And, you know, I understood my mother in that moment, you know what I mean? So, however, going forward, man, she just come out of nowhere and was like, I'm gonna give you an example of, you know, this is why this kind of bothers me. She was like, you remember that story you always talking about with them pigs coming in with the trench coats? And I'm like, yeah, like, what? Like, I'm not even knowing where she about to go with this. Like, I've been so interested in what this was my whole life. She's like, I believe that's just how you dealt with the traumatic experience that had happened. So my mom, she was big in them streets selling drugs, you know what I mean? My mom wasn't no small time person out there. Like, she had goons, she had a team with her, and she was treacherous for a woman, you know what I mean? My mom's is something special, man. She's something different. She changed her life, came a long way, man. Like, I'm real proud of my mom, man. So, yeah, she goes into this story, and she's telling me, she's like, you know, so she was selling big boy ice back then. And one day, you know, it was these cats that I guess felt like, you know, she a woman and they was gonna run down on her. So, come knocking on the door, she knew who they was. And as soon as she go to the door to open it, they just kick that bitch open, knock her back, run up in there. It was 3 of them. You know what I mean? Start, you know, doing her thing, beating on her. You know what I'm saying? Threatening her, where the drugs at? Where the drugs at? You know, da. And, you know, Mom Dukes was solid, man. She thorough. She won't try and give up nothing. She's like, man, I ain't giving you shit. You know what I mean? Da. So they just keep fucking my mama up, man. Beating on her and shit. And they start tying her up. So they tie her up, man. They hog tie my mama, man. And these dudes got bandanas on their face, all that, you know what I mean? Scullies and shit. And I guess through all the commotion, man, I start crying. So, you know, that's the thing with a woman, man. Like, you know, they gonna do what they gonna do for their children, man. So when I start crying, I guess the dudes had heard it. And when they hear that, they yoke my mama ass up, bloody and beat up, and take her in the next room where I'm at. Well, you know, we lived in Philadelphia, in South Philly at the time, and, you know, they small row homes. So a lot of people out there, you know, we used kerosene heaters. So we had kerosene heaters, and I guess they had decided that they was gonna burn this house down, or at least threaten to burn this house down, so they gonna get these drugs. So they start grabbing kerosene and pouring it all over the room, all around me, all over my crib, talking about they was gonna burn me, set me on fire, blow the house up, all this, you know what I mean? And I'm 2, you know what I'm saying? I don't even remember this, because, as I said, I must have dealt with it with that crazy ass pigs and trench coats. I don't know why or what in the world, where that came about, but that's how my young mind had handled that. So, you know, it was when they had went that far and did all that, my mom decided to give it up, you know. So she went and she go give them the drugs and give them the money, and they roll out. That's just a small part of where I can remember where it all started with me. And it also allowed me to see how trauma worked. You know, we process things and our mind's gonna protect itself. You know what I'm saying? But them type of things carry on with us throughout life. Like, in order for us to move forward, sometimes we gotta go back and clean some things up. We gotta deal with some things. As long as they remain in there, they gonna surface at different times. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's it definitely has effect on us. But the thing about it, and the reason why I'm gonna touch on it, cause a lot of times it has effect on our subconscious, meaning we not really even conscious of the trauma we dealing with, because it become normal to us. You know what I'm saying? So around that time of my life, her and my father had split up, and, you know, the custody battles ensued, and it just took off from there, and it was just constant back and forth with them, and this went on for a long time. The custody ended up being, you know, my father ended up winning. At one point, it just got chaotic. Like, they were constantly going at it with each other. It was constant things like my dad might have me at some woman's house being babysit, you know what I'm saying? My mom kicked the door in on their ass, yoke her ass up, choke her ass out with a dog leash, and took me up out of there. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, this shit was a lot as a young kid, man. You talking 3, 4 years old. And then up until I was 5, one of the stipulations was how I visited my mother was I had to have a supervised visitation. And this was like in some facility, I believe it was City Hall, in the bottom of City Hall in Center City, Philadelphia. And what I remember was these long tables, and it was a bunch of kids and their families at these tables, you know, and most of the time, you know, the kids would be visiting their fathers because, you know, they live with their mother. Well, me, I was living with my father, and I'm visiting my mother. And my mom used to bring me toys and shit, like racks of toys, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, mom was getting a little money back then, so she made sure I was strapped up. And she wouldn't get the loud-ass toys to piss my pop off, so I had all the dope-ass toys. And then, you know, little kids be trying to come play with me. And, man, I was mean, man. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't want to share nothing. And plus, you know, I loved my mama, man. Like, I just wanted to, you know, my mama just gave me these toys. Like, nah, you ain't playing with my toys. And punch the shit out of some little kid. I be fighting in these little places, man. Like, it started at that young for me, man. Just, you know, you grow up in things, man. A lot of times, it's gonna be who you turn out to be. And, you know, with that, A lot of people say, product of your environment, product of your environment. Hey, true on certain levels, absolutely, but there is exceptions to the rule. Because me, I have a brother, man, I have brother. We got the same father, different mother. And he grew up in Jersey, I grew up in Philly. However, the upbringing was similar, but me and bro is like polar opposites. We totally different from each other. You know what I mean? He a good man, got his life together. We made all the right choices, master degrees, colonel in the Air Force. I mean, dude be doing his thing. I can go with my kids, man. My kids, my two oldest, they same father, same mother, and they couldn't be more different. They are totally different in every sense of the word. My daughter more took after me, and my son, he more or less kind of remind me of how my brother was. You know what I mean? Like, he just kind of seen that lifestyle and ain't want no parts of it. You know what I mean? So he took a good route, and thank God for that. And so did my daughter, you know what I mean? She just kind of leaned towards the way I went with it, but she was smarter with it, man, and made better choices. And is doing very good now, man. I'm blessed for that. Like, I'm blessed for that because, as a parent, man, I didn't lead a good example. So the best I could do was, while I was incarcerated, find ways to parent the best I could, man. The best I can do is bring guidance to the table. So I tried to bring as much as that as possible. But what I really wanted to get to with this, man, is like the childhood trauma, man, really played a big part in a lot of the decisions I made coming up, man, and who I was and who I became. And I haven't dealt with that until, recent in my life. As I said, I was 38 when I had found out what happened there with that. And then just looking back to the visits in the bottom of the city hall and all that, like, it just won't normal, you know what I'm saying? And for me, once I started to get into it, and when I really got into writing my book, which I definitely would recommend anybody who feeling stuck, anybody who feeling like they're the place and they not understanding where it's at, man, write some things down. Write things down that you did in your childhood that happened to you, whatever, man, and work through that. Work through that. It's painful, but you're gonna come out on the other side a better man or a better woman. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to feel the heal, man. We can't just tuck things away and expect the thing to be fixed. It took me till I was 41 years old to actually sit here and confidently tell you I'm not going back to prison. You know what I'm saying? That took me a long time, and it sucked that it took that long. But with that, I felt like this. I made mad mistakes. I made so many mistakes and bumped my head so many times that, man, look, I done been through it. There's not much I can't relate to due to the outcome of how my life played out. And that's why I'm grateful, because it armed me up. You know what I mean? God armed me up, man. Every time I thought it was bad, when I look back now, I can make sense of my whole life. And that's thanks to Jesus, man. That's thanks to God. Like that's really what allowed me to be able to move forward and have peace in my heart, whereas I was tormented my whole life. You know what I'm saying? So, I just wanted to tap in here with y'all, man. I'm gonna start sharing some more stories. I figured, man, I'm gonna share them. I might as well start from the very beginning, man. So we got a long ride, baby. We gonna take this journey, man. Appreciate y'all rocking with y'all boy. This is GT Philly, man. Y'all already know. Go time, mighty man of God.